Here we go. So how are we doing, everybody? Good? Yeah? All right. We're in the afternoon. We're getting close to the end of what has been an absolutely great day so far. It's been really good, really interesting, and hoping I'm just going to add to that for you. So the name of my presentation today is Remember That Great Mobile Ad. And I'm very honored to be up here because I was actually voted to be the presentation of the kind of attendee choice for today. So really excited about that. And I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes or so talking with you and talking to you about mobile advertising. So what I'm not going to do is try to kill you with death by stats. We normally start our presentations with that, but I thought today, you know what, I'm in the afternoon, you've had enough stats, we won't start there, because you know what, we know it, mobile devices are always on. So what I thought I'd do instead is start with a prediction. And I'm gonna make a prediction about something that's gonna happen 2,000 years from now. So none of us will be here to know whether or not it happens, so it's maybe not that bold of a prediction, but I'm just gonna say that I bet in 2,000 years, someone will be digging through the rubbles of the earth and they will find a Nokia phone still on half battery, right? And I'm making this prediction actually from a personal standpoint because my fiance still has one of these. I kid you not, this is his phone, he uses it every day. So when we go on holiday, the first day of holiday, my phone, done, dead, right? Day 8, he still hasn't plugged his in. So this is my prediction of the day, take it forward. Hopefully I'll give you a lot more other interesting things to take with you. But you know, what I'm going to talk about and a lot that we're going to focus on is understanding your audience, understanding the consumer, understanding who this person is. Because what we do know is that we're in this generation of multi-device users. And these multi-devices are changing. They're becoming wearables, right? The Internet of Things. It's all happening. And I will give my fiance a bit of credit. He does actually have a smartphone, a tablet, and a laptop. So he's not still just using that Nokia phone. But this generation of multi-device users, we really need to understand who they are, right? And we need to understand, let's see, just bear with me for 1 second. There we go. But we need to understand who they are, what they're doing, and what they're doing per screen, right? So this is very important when we're thinking about great creative, and we're thinking about great creative for mobile. So, you know, what we do know is not one size fits all, right? So it's not just one ad fits every device, fits every screen. So we need to really understand who this audience is, what they're doing, what they're looking at, where they're at. So we give them a really relevant experience. We've seen just a lot of great examples of really cool things that are happening on the mobile device today, and it's up to us to make sure that our advertising and our ads are as engaging as the types of things that are happening. So, you know, to do this, we need to really be able to shift effortlessly between two mindsets. So from a media perspective, we think a lot about data, right? So we've got this left brain, right brain. So from a creative perspective, we think a lot about creative, but we need to bring these together. And it's not something that we do often from a mobile advertising perspective. And so this is something that we challenge our clients with, because we need to be really able to think about data and to think about creative and bring them together. Because at this point, we've crossed the Rubicon. There's no turning back, right? So this is the last year of Mobile Engage. We've heard multiple times, and we've got a lot of people that are a little bit sad at the IAB, and I can understand when something is your baby and you've worked on it for 5 years, and we've all been coming for years, but that's it. Mobile's here, it's part of everything, right? So now we have to figure out how to navigate this from an advertising perspective, right? Because here's what we know. Everybody's always connected, right? But we're not connecting with them. So as marketers, as brands, we're not connecting with them. And why aren't we, right? And you know, part of the problem that we see is that the time we spend on these devices does not match the time that we allocate, or the money that we allocate from a media perspective, right? Media plans for mobile are still an add-on. They're still a tag-along. So they're just an add-on. They're not always the main focus, and they're not matching that. And you know, I'll show, here we go, a TV ad. So if we think about TV ads for a second, right? Remember your favorite TV ad. Everybody can remember their favorite TV ad. When I moved to the UK about 6 years ago, and everybody started talking about their favorite Christmas ad. Have you seen the John Lewis ad? This was new to me because we don't do that in the States. It's not quite the event that it is here, but it becomes a national conversation. Everybody's talking about the Christmas ads, right? When is the last time that a mobile ad was part of a national conversation? Doesn't really happen that often. And so what we know and where we're at right now is that mobile ads, the advertising that we're executing, has not matched the pace of change, right? The majority, and I know this because we serve a lot of mobile ads, the majority of mobile ads are still static, right? And if that was effective, why aren't TV ads static with no sound? So it doesn't work. We need to change, right? And another thing that comes up a lot is viewability, right? So we're worried about viewability from a desktop perspective. We're worried about it now as well from a mobile perspective. And I know we're working on it and the MRC is working on it. But if we're really so worried about viewability, why don't we focus more so on making ads that people actually want to view, right? Because what's the point of showing crappy ads? There's not a point, right? It's wasted money, right? So, and if we were really worried about viewability, let's just show pop-ups. They're 100% viewable, problem solved, right? So why we think this is happening is that desktop is actually, from an advertising perspective, a burden on mobile, right? So yesterday's technology, yesterday's planning techniques, yesterday's things like Flash are actually being taken into mobile, and they're really causing us issues from a creativity perspective, right? Because we're using yesterday's technology on today's device. And so we need to stop doing that because it's just wasted delivery. It's just wasted money. There's no reason to be doing that. And we have an issue with backups. And what's happening is we see, I will give you one stat. I know I said not death by stats, but I'll give you one quick one. 23% of our Flash impressions are serving backup images right now. And the reason that's happening in most cases is because a campaign is planned for desktop. It's designed in Flash, right? But what's happening is it's actually being delivered on mobile devices where you need HTML5. And so because we're not taking this mobile-first approach, right, because we're not thinking holistically, we end up wasting a lot of money and a lot of impressions. So I'll show you an example. So here is a Flash ad. You can see it's Shaun the Sheep. It's very cute, all these cute little characters. And it's in Flash on the desktop. But what this agency did is they actually created an HTML5 backup as well. So you can see here, tap to expand. There's animation. It's more interesting. There's an immersive experience. The user can get in there and they can actually spend time. They can see the video. They can interact with the ads. And this might seem simple, but based on the stat I just told you, we're seeing that this isn't happening often, and that we have clients that are losing money, and they're losing the ability to interact with his consumers in a great and interesting way. So, and what we do know is that HTML5, when it's across any screen, does actually boost performance. So we need to be thinking about and designing in HTML5 first versus Flash. Because what we do know is good creative grabs attention, right? Good creative gets the user's attention, it gets their time, and it creates that engagement that we're looking for. And that's really what is key, is making sure that we're engaging with the consumer. So I'll show you another example of an ad. It's a pretty good one. So it's HTML5. You have the ability to click to expand or to touch to expand. You go in here, and the user has the ability to really navigate within the ad. They're able to do their own simulator. They're able to build out the car. They're able to see specific features, right? All controlled by them, all in their own time, and it's a really deep and engaging experience. And this is something that's going to grab their attention, and this is where they're really going to engage with that brand. So, what's great about that campaign was that it was built from a mobile-first perspective, right? Built in HTML5 and really had the ability for the consumer to interact. Because touchscreen, right, this is new, everything is new. We're activating the senses in a different way. And there's some really key things that can be done here to make sure that you're taking advantage of these new devices and of these screen areas when you're creating advertising. So gestures, really some basic stuff, but there's some things on here. The minimum hit area is 44 pixels. If it will come up, there we go, it's 44 pixels. So, use that area, think about this when you're designing ads. Don't think about the clicking, don't think about that. You're thinking about the tap area for your touchscreen devices. You're thinking about what the users are doing when they're on these screens. So what are they doing? They're tapping, they're pulling, they're swiping. So these are different gestures. So we need to be considering these and using these in our advertising and in our creative. So they're scrolling, they're dragging, they're pulling, they're swiping. We're all doing this. The other one I always say is don't forget about the thumb. I don't know about you guys, but I type with my thumbs. I scroll through news feeds with my thumbs. So these are things that we need to be thinking about. And here's a great example of an ad that does that. So you can see here on the right, their user is using their finger to clean off the screen there where they can see the resolution for the new Galaxy tab, right? And then it goes on from there. They can very loud video. With video, there's a lot more happening within this ad unit, so there's the ability for the user to really go deep, and they're using all these points of gestures and things to really make sure that they're going through and creating the most engaging creative possible. Because what we know is that mobile isn't simple. Right? We've heard a lot about it today. It comes in different shapes and sizes, right? And there's a lot that we need to think about. So we've talked about the gestures. We've talked about, the different screen sizes, making sure that we're reaching people in the right places with the right screen size. And, this new screen size makes it a lot harder for us from a creative perspective. We do have to think differently, but we also need to make sure that we're using it to the absolute best, best potential. So I'll show an ad. It's not the prettiest one. It's not for a movie. It's not for a car. It's for Gaviscon, something people need. But what you can see here is they've used the full screen size. And if the user doesn't want the ad, they'll just scroll past. But if they want to interact with it, they're using animation. They're grabbing their attention. It's really simple. And I know it sounds really simple, but these are the things that we're just now starting to see some of our marketers do, and things we need to be thinking about more and doing more often. Responsive ads, we've been talking about responsive sites for the last year and a half. A lot of our clients have been spending the last year and a half building responsive sites. We need to be doing responsive ads, right? Ads that also react responsively to the nature of the browser. So these things are important. And it's about content, it's about context, it's about audience, and it's about personalization. So the content you're advertising, what's that content that you're trying to get out? The context, what device are they on, right? The audience, who are you trying to reach, and how do you personalize it? And personalization is another area where there's a lot of opportunity from a mobile creative perspective, right? So dynamic creative optimization, a lot of us have been doing it in Flash in the past, but you're able to do this as well in HTML5, right? So you have the ability to change any element of an ad. And so you can see here, the logo's changed. I don't know who's buying or leasing a pair of trainers for $30,000, but it shows you an example, again, that you're able to change anything on the fly based on the audience. And this is really important. So these are things that we need to be thinking about when we're creating that next great mobile ad. And I'll show you an example. This is a Volkswagen campaign, and you can see this is dynamic creative. It's HTML5. It's multi-screen. It's across different devices. It's personalized, right? So it's taking into account all of those things that we talked about that are really important that we need to consider when we're working through this. And DCO can be done in video as well. So in this example, you'll see that there's a Boston ad and a New Jersey ad. So this is from the US for Toyota, but there's different offers and different messaging based on the user's location. So these are things that can be done. And I'll talk just a little bit about mobile and video. I know we've heard about it a lot today, but they're definitely coming together, right? So we love to consume video. All of us love to consume video. Sight, sound, action. It's what we love to do. And for consumers, television at this point has become any video. It's any video on any device. The line has disappeared, right? We're consuming that video, and we absolutely love it. So we need to be thinking about this when we're creating these mobile ads. We can use things like adaptive, which we heard a little bit about earlier, to make sure that we have the right resolution on the right device, on the right bandwidth for that user. So there's low resolution, there's high resolution, right? So you have the ability to really reach that consumer with the absolute best content, showcasing the brand in the best way possible. Right? There's other issues as well. There's things that we need to think about, not only about adaptive, but autoplay across all different operating systems, right? So on this HTC Android, you can see you can autoplay any video. That's great. It's great consumer experience. It can be really good engaging advertising. You can't do that on OS, but there's technology and there's ways to get around that. So these are the things that we need to think about and consider when we're doing mobile advertising and mobile creative, because this gives that seamless user experience, and it's a great user experience across both devices. And I'll show you one more ad here that we think is pretty good. This is from our Spanish office for El Corte's English. You can see there is just a very quick video intro there, very quick video intro. And then the ability for the consumer to go much deeper and interact with any bit of this fashion advertising that is interesting to them. So they can go in, they can learn about different products. It's all touch, it's all right at their fingertips, and they can engage for as long as they want. And so there's a couple things that are really good about this. It's one, it's the length of that video intro we think is great, and the reason why is because 6-second Vine is a new 30-second commercial. And you guys can see this little guy. He's loving it. He's at his party. It's his favorite jam. I just love that. Sorry. That's great, right? So, we heard earlier I know Ben from Opera Media Works said, think about a 15-second commercial. We'll challenge you to say, even think about a 6-second commercial, right? So think about that 6-second video. How can you just quickly use video to grab attention? We're all consuming it, we're all using it. But do it in an appropriate way where you can get the user's attention. Because the one thing that we know is that, you guys have probably seen this stat before, we love this, the average person has a 7-second attention span, which means I lost you guys hours ago. But what we do also know is that the average goldfish has an 8-second attention span. So, Dora from Finding Nemo is actually doing better than we are as humans. So we really need to be thinking about that. And when you're building these mobile device targeted video ads, just a few things to keep in mind. Keep it short, like I said, make it seamless, make it intuitive, make it tailored, right? We want to make sure that everything is visually optimized for smaller screens. I think Lindsay mentioned earlier shooting video for a rectangle, right? So there's so many things that have to be kept in mind when you're creating mobile advertising. And, but the thing is, it's worth it. And we need to be focused on it and make sure we're doing the right things to really get this great, impactful creative across. So, let's see. Don't mind me. We'll go to the next slide. There we go. So kind of one last bit that I want to leave you with is data. And it's something that we need to talk about, we need to think about. I've talked about personalization, talked about understanding the context, the different screens that people are on, what type of content you're bringing them, right? But what we know is data is one of the marketer's most valuable assets. And one of my friends was wearing a shirt the other day, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, which said, "Data is the new bacon." So I don't know whose company put that out there. It might be somebody here. If it was, I would like that tchotchke. Data is the new bacon. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So we need to make sure that we're using data in the appropriate way, because without data, you're just another person with an opinion, right? So we need to make sure that we're using this data to personalize mobile advertising, because what we know is marketers want personalization. We know that consumers want personalization, and this is the device where we can be doing it. So I'll go back to that left brain versus right brain that I brought up before. This really is, at this point, we need to be kind of melding both mindsets together. We need to be using our data about the consumers, using our data about what types of devices they are on, and then using, our right brain, using our creative to really make sure that we're reaching them in the most engaging way possible, because it is possible, right? It can happen. When you bring data and creativity together, that's when you create powerful, impactful advertising, right? And that's kind of where the magic happens. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what we want to do, right? Because creativity is everything, right? And when you mix it with intelligent data from start to finish, that is what is going to have us here next year showing you all these great mobile ads from the Christmas season that everybody was talking about instead of the videos, right? So it's about your brand story, and it needs to engage always. So we need to make sure we have this opportunity. Let's make sure that we take advantage of it. Let's make sure that we're using the technologies we can, and that we're using all our creativity to really engage with consumers, because we have the opportunity to do it. So that's it. So I'm Deann Harvey. Thanks very much. I really appreciate your time.